What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to the, Wednesday, hump day, midweek, 11 game, pretty big slate, MLB DFS Lineup Card show for Wednesday, the 5th. Everybody have a good 4th of July? Enjoy the fireworks? Anybody go out, do anything fun? Barbecues? So on and so forth? I had like a baseball focused day. We talked yesterday. We had a show yesterday. Felt like we had a good show yesterday. Thought we got a lot of stuff right yesterday. My lineups didn't come together. I didn't have a great night, but not a bad night, but like one of those, slightly below break even, I guess. But I just felt like we had a lot of stuff fairly on point yesterday. So hopefully somebody out there had a good night. But yeah, it was just fun watching baseball all night. Dustin's in the chat. Dustin says he was watching the WSOP main event coverage. I haven't been into watching the televised poker in quite a while. I should jump back into that. Used to be big in that space back in the day. I was a poker player going way back before the poker boom a little bit. Had a regular game, loved to play. Wasn't like overly serious about it, but that poker boom hit like just after I came out of college. Like Rounders came out when we were like in college. Or like just around that time. And then like right after college was when that poker boom happened. So some of you guys probably have heard me talk about it over time. I've had my weekly Wednesday night game for the last going on probably like 20 years at this point. It's been online since we got lazy about wanting to put it back together after the pandemic. It went online during the pandemic and it's stayed online in the last couple of years. But still going. $20 a week for the fun of it. But it was big into online for a long time, specifically before Black Friday, Black Monday, whatever the hell it was, when they took everybody's money. Was big into online and that space before that, and then it went away, and then they legalized it in Jersey pretty quickly, and I never really jumped back into the online poker game. It's kind of because, partially because just small pools, no great prize pools since it was Jersey players only. It wasn't as good. So I was just used to those global prize pools where there's $25,000 up for grabs every day and all those tournaments they used to run. Oh, those were the best. Used to have decent results. Never got out to Vegas to play in the series though. Played in some tournaments here in Jersey and around the area, I think PA. Nothing like crazy, nothing serious, just for the fun of it kind of tournaments. But never played in the actual World Series yet. One day. Anyway, my game's so rusty at this point, I would embarrass myself if I tried to play in it right now. I would definitely need a little bit of polish before I got out there. Anyway, let's say hi to everybody. Let's get into this. That wasted several couple of minutes there off the top of the show on a day where we need to be quick because we've got 11 games and we started a little bit late at 4:30 here. But let's say hi, everybody. We got Lone Wolf. We got Po Degen Stoner. Wake and Bake DFS Baseball Bitches from Garden City, Colorado. Lone Wolf says, what's up? Hope you get to fire up before the stream. Always, buddy. At least at some point during the day. You don't write 10,000 word articles without smoking a little bit of pot during the day. Come on, let's be honest with each other. Stephen B's in the chat. Larry C says, will Rowdy Tellez get a 10 in the home run model from the injured list? Question of the day. I actually took a look if he was in there. I didn't see him in there, Larry. So probably not. Trey says he's dabbing right now for the pre-show. Calvin Dunn. What's going on? Stephen B. Trey, Dustin, Stephen Leibowitz, Fanatic, Shannon Lambert's in the chat. Could be Travis is out there. Greg's out there. What's going on, gang? Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hey, Terry, has anyone tuned into your show 150 feet in the air from a crane before? Yes, exclusively for a while. We only had that audience. For the first week of the show, it was only people in cranes. And then everybody else caught on, and now it's like a rare thing, I guess, Travis. But yes, welcome back to the crane people, I guess. That's pretty cool, Trav. That's where you're tuning in from? That's fun. I hope you're up there for work and not something nefarious and mischievous. Although that could be fun too. Get yourself on the news. Welcome everybody. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. That way you know when these oddball start times. If I need an extra 15 minutes during the afternoon, you know when I'm going live with this stuff. Let me make sure my phone's on mute. Ooh, let me put in my placeholder lineups actually. And then we'll actually get started. Today was the minor league draft in our Dynasty League that I talk about all the time. It's actually my pick right now, and I'm getting text messages about it being my pick. Emacs in that league. It's a slow draft by email, so they can wait an hour. I had the first pick of the draft. So with Skeens and Cruz available from LSU, I took Skeens. It's a keep them for at least a long time. They eventually, after multiple contracts, go into a bidding scenario where like I would lose. I traded him away, but I would have lost Aaron Nola this year, or at least he would have gone into free agent bidding this year after I've had him for quite a while. So now I'll just replace him with Skeens. And then my I'm just putting these placeholders in. Second pick, I took that big power hitting kid from the Tigers. I forget his name. It's how much I like him. I forgot his name already. The hell was his name? Gotta scroll back up. Colt Keith. That's right. So now you got Colton Cowser and Colt Keith. Colton Cowser came up today. That's a big one. Yet another ridiculous bat coming up for the Orioles. Embarrassment of riches. We'll talk about that one in half a second. I'm up to 140, 10 more. Come on. There we go. I don't know why they don't just offer the ability to say, I'd like 150 of these, please, on the app for FanDuel. Why do I have to do it 20 at a time? Drives me bonkers. Anyway, let's get... I didn't want to click that. Let's get into this one. Let me stop wasting time here. My audio's cracking? Is the actual audio cracking, or was I just cracking? I sound like I'm underwater in 2 times speed. Try rebooting my sound. All right, hold on. How about now? Anything now? We delayed. Shannon saying it looks like it now might be delayed. Chuck says now I'm perfect. Well, I'm always perfect, buddy, but the stream looks good. Went to shit when you talked about Keith. It's fine now. All right. We'll try and keep rolling. Hopefully it was just something weird rolling through. I don't know what might have happened. Trey just dropped something into the Discord. Holy hell. Trey, is that one of those blowtorch deals? That was the poker game I was talking about. At one point, it got a little bit out of hand where like everybody could bring whatever they wanted, and it was in the days before Jersey was fully legal. And at one point, I'd turn around and there'd be a dude like, you got to smoke this off the head of a nail by setting it up to 700 degrees with this blowtorch, and like got a little over the top with some of that stuff. I think that's what that is. That white thing in the back there. It's a good kit though. Put all that into like one of those little black doctor bags when you go on the road. All right, let's get into this thing. Hopefully I still sound okay. I was just giving it a second there to make sure. Blowtorch to dab. That's what I thought. All right, let's dive in. A lot to talk about, huh? The screen share went away. This one. Too much open, too. Maybe that'll help. I can close this. Hang on one sec. I'm just closing a couple of things here. Shouldn't slow anything down, really. Got a pretty good computer, but might as well. All right. So right off the top here, Yanks and the Orioles. Hot day here in the New York area. It's right about 90. And definite hitting weather in Yankee Stadium, and a couple hitting-oriented pitchers here. Randy Vasquez making his 3rd start of his career, somewhat viable, 7,100, 5,500. Went a couple of innings in each of his starts, so I believe that there's some depth there. But I don't know that I want to throw him up against the frisky enough Orioles lineup here. They're pulling a 4.65 total in Vegas. Yanks at 4.44. Both teams, coming in at middling kind of totals on a day where there's a lot of middling pitching. There's a lot of middling kind of lineups, and then there's a few peak spots for what looks like really good offensive opportunities, like the Braves and a couple of these teams that are projected over 5 runs. So I think it's going to require some uncomfortability in a lot of spots today in terms of what pitchers we're rostering, what teams we're going to, and how we're getting there. So I think guys like Vasquez are at least somewhat in play today. He's not a good play. He doesn't project well. His lower middle range pitching projection, but at 71.55, there's enough meat on the bone there for a value play that I think you can get away with like a couple shares of him. He went, let's see, 24.3% strikeout rate over 61 and 2/3 in 13 starts in AAA, a 4.95 xFIP and a 5.11 ERA though. So he's not a high-end guy by any means. But he worked 4.2 in the first one, struck out 6, then went 5 and 2/3 in the second start. Only struck out 3 in that one, but only gave up 2 hits, pitched 5 and 2/3 clean innings. So he's got the ability to get through a couple clean innings. It's just, it's more likely going to be 3-4 runs against him, only a couple of strikeouts. But that's what you're paying for at 5,500 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DK. So he's not off the board. Dean Kramer, similar kind of story, 20.9% strikeout rate in a much bigger sample, 91 innings, 17 starts, a 4.43 xFIP, 5.04 ERA. Very hittable pitcher, giving up a decent amount of premium contact, which I think we can chase a little bit with the Yanks here. 11% barrels, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velo, 45.2% hard hits, 4.83% home run rate. Definite reasons to chase Dean Kramer here, but I think you can throw a few shares of him at the Yankees. It's not like it's a good version of the Yankees lineup. They've been underperforming basically all year. At least when Aaron Judge is not in the lineup, they underperform. You've got the IKF version of the lineup here. I don't love him in there, so a lot of holes in this Yankees lineup in my opinion. So some shares of Kramer at 77.86, but tempered expectations. He projects right there alongside Vasquez. It's not like either one of these guys is a strong option. But there's one pitcher who's kind of crashing through the top of the board. We'll get to him. And then the peak after him is in the 30-point range. So these guys don't project far off the top, but they're firmly in the middle of the board. There's just kind of it's another short but broad kind of a pitching slate. So with that in mind, with both pitchers moderately in play at best, I think we can go to either one of these lineups. Confirmed version of the Orioles lineup. Let me see here. All right, just wanted to make sure he was there. Colton Cowser, hitting 7th, dead minimum on DK. That's a massive buy. 2,500 on FanDuel. At least they priced him up a little bit. Still definitely too cheap. This is one of the premier hitting prospects in baseball. Power and speed. Significant prospect. Makes you forget that the next guy in the lineup, Jordan Westburg, was that exact same review just last week. 26 plate appearances ago. It's hitting 304, 385, 391 so far. Creating runs 23% better than average. So 2 potential stars hitting 7th and 8th right now for the Orioles. Both of these guys could easily be hitting, up in this range come, 2-3 weeks from now. Gunnar was these guys at the beginning of this season and is now established, if not a star, on his way to being a star. 4,700, 3,000, third base and shortstop eligible. Still too cheap. Love him in the leadoff spot. Gets on base at a good clip, draws walks. He still strikes out too much, but like we've talked about, it's a lot of hunting for those walks kind of strikeouts. It's strikeouts because he's picky, not because he's flailing at the plate. 11 home runs on the season, a 205 ISO, a 116 WRC+. Adley right behind him. Adley's sitting at 11 home runs also. Kind of cooled off in terms of delivering a power on a regular basis, but just a very good hitter, always hitting second, always in the lineup as a catcher. DHs him when they DH him when he doesn't catch. So just a great bat for 5,300, 3,200. You can play him on both sites. 4,734 for Anthony Santander, very cheap. Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins, couple of good lefties in the heart of the lineup with some power there to throw at Vasquez here. I think at least the 1 through 5 plus the 2 kids, and then, of course I'm skipping him, but Aaron Hicks sitting there at 6th, 2,700, 2,400. Can't stop producing. Seems to be rubbing it in the face of Yankees fans who continue to boo him. No real reason to skip Aaron Hicks at this point in the middle of this lineup. As long as he's there, especially at these prices, there's no good reason to skip over him. He's been producing in that spot. So for now, definitely go to him. Adam Frazier at the bottom of the lineup is a playable part. 10 home runs on the season, 7 stolen bases, and 283 plate appearances. Good lineup for the Orioles up and down. The Yanks, interesting version of the lineup with Rizzo leading off. Rizzo, Torres, Stanton, Jake Bauers, Josh Donaldson. That's a pretty good stretch. That's a fairly solid 5-man stretch with some good contact in these 3 guys in terms of the premium contact. These 2 guys are short samples. 150 plate appearances for Bauers, 93 for Donaldson. I believe the premium contact for Donaldson. I don't know if I buy that Bauers holds up at that kind of a level, but at least right now they're both crushing the ball when they make contact. 7 home runs for Bowers, 8 for Donaldson, and only 93 plate appearances. You know there's tons and tons of power through Stanton and Josh Donaldson. Glaber, you take the power when you get it. 172 ISO, 13 home runs on the year. It's good. We've seen him coast further than that for home run upside. He'll probably settle into the 22 to 25 range when it's all said and done for the season. Good second baseman, not a superstar, but a good second baseman with a good amount of power. Anthony Rizzo, I expect to return more to form and be more around the 280, 285 hitter, if not 300 over time. He dipped badly after he got hurt. The power went away a little bit, but he's at 11 home runs for the season, still a 120 WRC plus. Gets on base. In the leadoff spot, you could do a lot worse than lefty hitting Anthony Rizzo against a pitcher who's giving up this much premium contact. Should give him those that short right field porch to shoot for here. I love him at 4,000, 3,100 too. It's just a great price to find Anthony Rizzo. Bottom of the lineup, LeMahieu's been struggling all year. I already said I don't really like IKF. Nothing changed from a few minutes ago. He's hitting 262, 308, 393, 94 WRC plus, a 131 ISO, 5 home runs, 9 steals. He's an effective enough utility man if that's what you're looking for at the bottom of the lineup. I would just much rather go to Volpe if I've got the money, obviously. Only 500 more at shortstop on the FanDuel slate. That's reasonable. 1,100 more is a little bit more of a price difference on the DK slate, but if you can get there, it's obviously the better hitter. He's been on fire lately. They showed a stat during last night's Yankee game. It was like him, Ohtani, Olsen, like a couple other guys for OPS over the last 3 weeks or something like that. Just been blazing his way through just the end of June and the start of July here to kind of normalize and fix his season so far. So 11 home runs, 16 stolen bases. Counting stats have been there all along. The production's coming around up to a 91 WRC plus. Gotta like what we're seeing now. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully it's not just a little flash and then he regresses back to what he was. 14% barrels, 51.6% hard hits. That's what I'll continue to focus on with Kyle Higashioka. Cheap catcher. Nobody goes to him at the bottom of the lineup. There's tons of upside when he connects. So I like Higgy at the bottom of the lineup. Kind of a four corners one. More leaning toward the offense, but I think both pitchers are at least mildly viable on a weird pitching slate. Can't blame anyone for rubbing it in Yankees' face. Yeah, especially, the obnoxious Yankees tourist fans, like I was saying the other day. You can definitely rub it in their faces. Hunter Bones in the chat. What's going on, Hunter? It's going well, bud. What else is going on in there? Nothing crazy going on. DK 2,000 minimum for Kowser. Westberger's reverse splits guy, I think. I didn't look at the splits for Westberg, but just another kid. He's just a premium star potential type of a prospect in the infield for them. This is a game where I'm expecting a significant amount of offense. A lot of it coming from the Red side, as we can probably see in the home run model here. There's a ton of power showing for the Reds, going up against one of our favorite targets, Josiah Gray. He's really gotten his act together a lot more for the home runs, in spots at least this year. He's had stretches of clean games, and then he has blips of reverting back to form of the last couple of years, where he was at 5+% home runs last year, 6+% home runs the year before. Was a better strikeout pitcher those years, so his strikeouts have dipped in line with the home runs coming down. Maybe he's focusing a little bit more on whatever's the difference maker there, pitching with a little bit more command and control, and striking out fewer, but not getting tattooed, not making quite as many mistakes. For a while, he was throwing his fastball a little bit less. I haven't checked up on the volume lately to see if that's still the case, but it had a positive effect on his stuff. 7.6% barrels, down from last year, 35.4% hard hits. And like I said, the home run rate, way down. But the ERA is 3.30, which is good, but the xFIP, 4.66, that's probably the much more honest number, especially when strikeouts are down here and walks are up here. We're probably looking at a guy who's going to normalize into the low, if not mid fours when it's all said and done as far as runs go. A 1.38 whip, this is not sustainable with this kind of walk, this kind of a whip. The 11.5% swinging strike is decent. The 26.4% CSW. You'd like to see that come up a little bit, and that would help him improve, take another step forward. But he's been effective, and he projects fairly well here. So this is a spot where I'll both sides it. I'll take some Josiah Gray shares because of that projection here in the model, because of the $8,100, $8,300 price. But I'm definitely looking to get to some Reds bats, and that's the side of this that I prefer. They're projecting really well. They're flashing a ton of power. I made Joey Votto the home run pick today because why not? Joey Votto's just fun. TJ Friedl off the top. has been really effective. 307, 375, 471 on the season, 15 stolen bases. Matt McLain is a star. He's kind of gotten overshadowed by Ellie and by Spencer Steer to a degree, but McLean's had a really strong breakout. 305, 374, 537, 7 home runs, 5 stolen bases, and 211 plate appearances. He's been really good. 39% better than average creating runs. You get India at a fairly cheap price, considering that you're getting Ellie in his 113th to 117th, 18th plate appearances of his career at 6,000 and 4,000. Compared to Jonathan India for 4,700, 3,500. That is a bargain on India. 13 home runs, 12 stolen bases for him, 381 plate appearances this year, 4% better than average creating runs. He's not a star, but he's a good player, good contributor of counting stats, hitting third in the lineup at a cheap price at a premium position too. You can plug a player like that into second base for those prices. You're making out pretty well here. So I like Jonathan India quite a bit. Ellie's obviously a breakout, potential star. 3 home runs, 10 stolen bases already, 18% better than average creating runs. Wait, what? Oh, I just misplay. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, I just pasted the lineup in wrong when I was copying lineups over. I appreciate you pointing that out, though. I think you meant I was reading it wrong when I was talking about it. I was like, wait a minute, what? Let me fix that. Yeah, sometimes I go to copy and paste it off the other one, and the copy doesn't connect through fully. Look a little better. So as I was saying, Ellie is a breakout star. 308, 348, 490, 183 ISO. The strikeouts are concerning at 31.3%. He hasn't really been barreling the ball, but plenty of hard hits so far. Has been very good so far. So happy to pay for Ellie if I'm paying a little bit of a tax when everybody else is cheap. It's easy enough to do. Jake Fraley, big time power from the left side, 5,200, 3,300 in the outfield. Joey Votto, like I said, my home run pick for the day, 12.24 in the model, 5,100, 3,100, 4 home runs on the season. Love Joey Votto. Spencer Steer, another player having a pretty strong breakout for this team, 292, 381, 505, 14 home runs, 9 stolen bases, 34% better than average. He's only 4,900, 3,600 at first base or in the outfield. I like the spot for Spencer Steer. It's good that they leave him with outfield eligibility so that you can play him alongside Joey Votto. You don't have to worry about the either or there. So I really like the 1 through 7 here for the Reds. And then you can bolt on some Tyler Stevenson shares if you need to. You can bolt on some Will Benson for cost savings. Benson's been fine in 119 plate appearances, 3 homers, 6 stolen bases, 20% better than average for run creation. So the top 7 is where you really want to live, but I'm fine bolting a couple shares of those guys on if I'm building 20 stacks of Reds there and a few of them each. On the other side, the Nats against Graham Ashcraft. This is a spot I'm just not thrilled with. I don't like how Ashcraft's projecting in the model at 27 and change FanDuel points because that means he's relevant when I don't know that I believe that he really is. He's not been a good pitcher over time. 17.1% strikeout rate, 9.2% walks, 3.76% home runs is okay, but 42% hard hits is a little high. 6.66, the mark of the beast on the ERA with the 4.70 xFIP, 1.59 WHIP, and just looking back, 105 innings last year, 15.3% strikeouts, 4.89 ERA, 4.09 xFIP. Give up a little bit of premium contact. It's just not great. So I don't know that I trust anything that I'm seeing here with Ashcraft, but on a weird slate where he's probably not going to be one of the more popular guys off the board, I wouldn't think. At 61 and 81, I think he's worth a few value darts. We're going to say that about a lot of guys today. If I'm throwing the value dart on Josiah Gray against the Reds at 8,300, I might as well throw it for 8,100 when Graham Ashcraft projects essentially the same against the Nationals. Gray's been a little bit better for strikeouts, but not overly effective all year. So it's about the same play. The Nationals are certainly a worse lineup than the Reds are. I think you both sides that situation as well. And I think if I had to try and save my life by picking one side or the other of this, I think I would go with the Nationals. But it's probably a little closer than it should be given that Graham Ashcraft is on the mound. Lane Thomas off the top for 5,000, 3,500, totally playable, 14 homers, 7 stolen bases. Nice season for him. He's the only one. Candelario is minimally playable. 12 home runs on the season, 11 of them are against righties. So against a weak righty, he's on the board at 3,700, 3,100, but he's not a priority play by any means. Joey Meneses, decent hit tool this year, but no real power to speak of, 87 WRC plus. Dom Smith, Keibert Ruiz, Corey Dickerson, all these guys well below average by WRC plus. Just not a lot to like about this Nationals lineup. Nobody really hits for power. Nobody really gets on base. They don't create runs. They don't sequence. They're cheap. They're cheap against a bad pitcher who's going to allow a lot of contact, and they don't strike out that much. That's the one thing that they would have going for them. So not striking out against a soft tosser with a bunch of contact available, that leads to sequencing. That leads to base hits. So there is cause to roster some Nationals. It's just difficult to justify. They're just not good. So my favorite bats would certainly be Lane Thomas, probably Thomas, Garcia, Candelario, and Keibert. Something like that. I really don't like Dom Smith. Maybe there's some upside for Meneses on the right day. It's not great. So firm enthusiasm about the Reds. A little bit for Josiah Gray as a throw-in kind of a pitcher. Less enthusiasm for Graham Ashcraft, but he's on the board on a weird day. And the least enthusiasm probably for the Nationals now that I talk it through. I think I'll trust the model and I'll go with Graham Ashcraft over the Nationals. Don't like it either way. Another weird spot. Pitching in this one, projecting low for two pitchers that I think I might like a little bit better than how they look here. It's definitely not a great spot for pitching in Fenway Park tonight. You've got the loaded Rangers lineup, although they've bounced a little bit lately, against the Red Sox, who are a high-end effective lineup, but two good right-handed pitchers who have been pitching fairly well this season, both coming in at decent prices. So this is another one where I think I'm just going to take the pitchers, even though they don't project all that well, kind of mid-board type projections. Reasonable prices for guys who could find a little bit of upside, but I think it leads me to bats on both sides of this one as well, because it's two lineups that I like, two lineups that I think are certainly worth going to here. I'm not sure what the popularity is going to look like, but I can't imagine they're like runaway popularity. They're both totaled over 5 though, so maybe the bats will get a little bit more popular, and I can get the pitching at low popularity. I guess that's probably the lean here, but I'll have all 4 corners of this one. This one makes some sense. Taking a look at Bayo, 3.08 ERA, a 3.84 xFIP, 21.8% strikeouts. He allowed 5 runs in his first start of the season back at the beginning of April, and he hasn't given up more than 3 in a start ever since, and he's only given up more than 2 twice. So he's been really good, working deep into games, 5 straight quality starts on the board for him, working 6-7 innings. He's not a major strikeout asset, and it's the Rangers on the other side of this one, so I want to temper my expectations. But I think he deserved probably either a little bit more ownership attention or maybe a little higher price than where he's at. So at 8,500, there's a lot on the board there for Brayan Bello. I think he'd definitely go to that spot. Again, not great. Probably not going to rack up a huge strikeout total. But on a night where we're kind of just looking for some effective innings outside of like a couple of guys, I think he's definitely on the board for that. And it's similar for Gray. 8,900 on both sites for him. So both of these guys, same price on both sites. Gray's been pitching really similarly, 21.1% strikeout rate, a 3.21 ERA, a 4.46 xFIP. It's a pitcher that we know over time has been effective. 3.18% home run rate on the year, 35% hard hits. He doesn't crush through the top of the board by any means. It's not a great matchup going up against the Red Sox. Heavily left-handed version of the lineup, although no Tristan Casas toward the back of the lineup. So I think it's a playable but not good spot for John Gray on like a day where everybody on the pitching board kind of falls that way. So I'll have my shares of Gray. But if I'm going to lineups, I'm looking, of course, at the top of the Rangers, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Nathaniel Lowe, still cheap, great bolt-on piece, good hit tool, moderate amount of power, 21% better than average creating runs. Adolis Garcia, all his barrels, all his hard hits, 21 home runs on the season. 5,700, 3,700. He should arguably be probably him and Semien on DK anyway should switch prices. Semien should maybe be a little bit cheaper now, and Garcia should certainly be a little bit more expensive. He's been crushing it all season. Josh Young, 5,000, 3,400. Speaking of another guy crushing it all season. 274, 325, 488, a 213 ISO, 123 WRC plus, 17 homers. Really corrected his biggest problem by cutting 10 percentage points off his strikeout rate from last year. 11.8% barrels, 50.4% hard hits. Jonah Heim, Mitch Garver, you get the dual catcher version of the lineup. Both of those guys, interchangeable parts in terms of power hitting catchers for fair prices, low ownership, like both of those guys. And then weaker back end than we're normally looking for. We don't get Duran or Leody Taveras. They're both getting the day off today, I guess. 7 home runs on the season for Robbie Grossman, though. 10 stolen bases for Travis Jankowski. Moderately playable veteran pieces at the bottom of the lineup for the Rangers. More of a 1 through 7 lineup today for the Rangers, or if you only want to count one of the catchers, 1 through 6, with those guys as 6 and 6A. On the Red Sox side, Jarren Duran, Yoshida, Devers, Verdugo, killer lefties, 4 killer lefties in that lineup with Justin Turner hitting third in between them. Really like that spot to start off this stack at least. Duran and Yoshida up the top of the lineup. Duran gets on base at a decent clip, can help create runs, can steal a base. Yoshida's been driving in runs, getting on base himself, creating runs like crazy. Turner's hitting for power and has a great hit tool from the right side. All the lefty power of Rafi Devers for 4,900 on the DK slate, 3,700 on FanDuel. I know he's dipped in terms of his triple slash, but Rafi Devers should never ever be 4,900. That's low. 246 ISO, 20 home runs on the season, 13.4% barrels is up from last year, 53.4% hard hits is up from last year. It's silly that hitter is priced at that price. John Gray's a respectable right-handed pitcher, but this is Rafi Devers in Fenway Park. I mean, that's a killer spot. Alex Verdugo gets on base like crazy, creates runs, hits for a little bit of power, great average. Really like Verdugo leading into Adam Duvall. I think Duvall's potentially sneaky, hitting 6th. Everybody's going to focus on the lefties, the guys ahead of him in the lineup. Duvall's got power for days. 14.9% barrel rate, only 4,700 on DK, 2,900 on the FanDuel slate. Really like the spot for Duvall there. 5 home runs and 111 plate appearances, but has been a major power hitter over time. So I like going to Duvall. Connor Wong would be the choice at the bottom of the lineup, 9.9% barrels. We're just hunting a barrel and a home run. Christian Arroyo, David Hamilton take relief in the middle of the lineup there. So kind of a 4 corners for me. Hoping that the pitchers are low owned and I can just take 5-10% of them and just have a handful and be ahead of the field, and then get to some bats. I wouldn't go crazy with the bats either. I know they're both over 5. I think it's worth getting to shares of the bats. I don't know how over the top I'm going to be with bats, though. Considering the way that the day breaks down in terms of pitching, the fact that I want to get to these 2 pitchers a little bit, and that I think both of these guys are good and have the potential where this game might just get capped at like 8 total runs. A little bit below where Vegas is looking. Or even if it goes to 10 runs, even if Vegas has it exactly right on the board and it's at 10 runs, 5 on each side, we're still not breaking the slate at those numbers, right? So I think it's more apt to come down along the lines of expectations than another game that might go at and get out of hand. This is the game that seems like the most potential for like a normalized result, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's move on. Oop, skipped one. Braves and the Guardians. 5:03. Got to pick up some time. Well, now we're all right. 4 of Duvall's bombs came in week 1. Yeah, that is absolutely true, Steven. He was crushing that first week, got hurt, went on the IL, and only won since coming back. It's just a guy that I believe in the long-term power and the results I've seen over time. So I'm willing to give him plenty of rope. And since he's probably going to be pretty low owned in that 6 spot in a lineup that I'll want to get to, that just makes him appealing for me in terms of DFS. Those are the kinds of guys I'm hunting for. That like, it's a guy I have total faith in, but the field's got a reason to not go to him on a day where there's more appealing bats anyway. It just creates an opportunity in my mind. Great 0.5%, Bayo around 3%. Perfect. It's exactly where I want him. It's exactly where I want him. I like that a lot. I can get to 5% of Gray, maybe 8% of Bayo, just double them up. I like that a lot. I think you can get even more aggressive with it on DK, honestly. They're both priced a little bit high. Like, you can't really use them as like cheapo SP2s. They're not appropriately priced for that, but I think they're very interesting pitchers today. Not a great spot, facing 2 tough lineups, but talented guys who are are performing at their normal output and have done it in the past. Anyway, moving on to this one. I think Cal Quantrill's a target here. We're seeing the Braves at a 5.66 run total. Cal Quantrill, he's okay at keeping home runs down. 2.46% home runs, 7.7% barrels this year, 2.73%, 7.5% barrels the year before, and a decent ERA with an okay xFIP last year. Decent ERA, okay xFIP the year before, but he's never a good strikeout guy. Last year was 16.6% strikeouts. This year, 12.3%. He's just a low-end guy, a contact-oriented pitcher going up against this Braves lineup. Even if he doesn't get tattooed for home runs, which I think he probably will, just given their knack for hitting them, I just expect so much contact and so much run creation upside here. It's the everyday version of the Braves lineup. I've probably already spent too much time talking about Cal Quantrill. Projects near or at the bottom of the board here, 5,600, 6,900. I know there's the odd duck kind of a start possibility, but as we've talked about before, I like to play probability, not possibility. Is it possible Cal Quantrill blows the doors off the slate tonight? Sure, why not? Is it probable? No, not in any way. So I'll be leaning into the Braves again. They project near the top of the board for points as usual. The power production or projections are slightly below the magic number, but everybody's basically pushing the magic number that you would expect in the home run model for a team that has 7 guys above 14 home runs on the season. Ridiculous output. We talk about this team all the time. Ronald Acuna is somebody I don't need to sell to anybody, even though he costs $6,700, $4,800. He's starting to get into mid-range pitcher pricing on the DK slate over there. 21 home runs, 41 stolen bases is totally worth it. 70% better than average creating runs. Ozzy finally getting respect in the second spot, second baseman, one of the top options at his position, if not the top option when you don't count Mookie Betts. Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Ozuna, Rosario, Arcia, Harris. It's just a playable lineup from 1 through 9 every single night. There's power, there's speed with up and down the lineup. Let's put it that way. You lose some of the speed around Murph, Ozuna, and Rosario, but then you pick it back up down toward the bottom of the lineup. Here's, I guess, the correct take on that. But a lot of cheap prices down at the bottom of the lineup. Tons of barrels, tons of home runs. Just a playable 1 through 9. You can wrap these guys around to the top. You can play it from here down. You can do all sorts of things with the Braves. On the other side of this one, Michael Soroka going up against the Guardians. Playable price on the DK slate for Soroka. He was 71, I want to say. 67, excuse me. 67 on DK. For some reason, 93 on the FanDuel slate, which I don't really understand. I know he's a talented guy, but I don't know that he's just on form right now. I broke it down in the article. Let me jump to it here. 6 innings in the first and third outing. He struck out 3 while allowing 4 runs on 5 hits to the A's in his first start. Struck out 7 Marlins, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, but 2 home runs in the third start. And in between, he gave up 5 runs on 7 hits with two more home runs, striking out 2 and walking 4. So he's been all over the place. It amounts to a 6.89 ERA, a 4.82 xFIP, and a 16.7% strikeout rate. 11.5% barrels, 6.94% home runs. It's just been a little ugly out of the gate here for Soroka. I think he'll find his form probably, turn into a decent pitcher if he stays healthy on the mound and all. And he's been around a little bit, but right now I just don't trust it. It's not leading me into Guardians, and they're a really low-end team, but the one thing they do, as we always talk about, is avoid strikeouts. So if they're putting bat on ball, if he's not finding strikeouts, I just don't love the spot. So, especially at FanDuel, it just makes no sense at all. I do think he's on the value board on DK. At that price, you can take a few shots, but he's a low-end option in my mind. He projects okay here, so that gives me a little bit of faith in terms of where he should be coming down on this slate. Maybe you get away with it. Maybe he finds his form and gives you 5 good innings, clean start, great shot at a win, obviously, on the DK slate. A handful of strikeouts, maybe. That's where I think we're pushing it, though. I don't know what kind of a strikeout upside he's got here. Guardians are not a good team. I'm not really going to look to stack them against Soroka here. If you do go to them, it's Jose Ramirez from the middle of the lineup, and then good luck with anybody else. Everybody else below average for run creation because we won't count David Fry in 44 plate appearances. Bo Naylor, the bottom of the lineup, cheap catcher with a little bit of pop. Josh Bell should be a lot better than he is, 2,700, 2,600. Hit a bunch of home runs a couple years ago. Hasn't done much this year at all. 8 home runs on the season, a 91 WRC+, 145 ISO. Andres Jimenez moves up to the cleanup spot in this version of the lineup with no Josh Naylor in it. So you lost their second best player. It's ugly version of the lineup. Quan and Rosario have been better in the past, but neither one of those guys has been producing at all this season. Quan, three points below average creating runs. Rosario 13 below. Jose Ramirez needs help in this lineup. It's not pretty. If you're going to the Guardians, it's right here. Bottom half of the lineup just supports upside for Soroka, really. Don't like the bottom of the lineup here at all. So really not getting to much in terms of pitching. Definite interest in the Braves. I expect they'll be crushingly popular, but totally worth it. And then some shares of Soroka on the DK slate. No Cal Quantrill, and then no real interest for me in the Guardians. I wouldn't tell anybody they were making a mistake taking a couple shots at Soroka in this current form. It's just been such a low end lineup that it's really Jose Ramirez, and then what else you selling me? Anybody out there like the Guardians a lot today? Let's see what's going on. Stephen Leibowitz, I'll play him for 4K. Sharon Lugo. You guys are... Somebody's talking about Lugo. Oh, Tommy Malone. No Tommy Malone. Not for me. We'll get there. Tommy Malone is a 36-year-old who has a 6 or 7 something xFIP in AAA this year. Low 20 strikeout rate. Yeah, no. Tommy Malone. No. Not for me, thanks. We'll get there. Let's talk about the Royals and the Twins game. This is the pitcher that I was referring to at the top of the slate. With a bullet, top of the board, Pablo Lopez. Think he's projecting well around the industry as well, but I'm getting a big number on him here, obviously. We're going up against this Royals lineup that we've been targeting a little bit lately with all the strikeouts in it. I think there's plenty of reason to go to Pablo Lopez here with a lot of confidence. 29.8% strikeout rate on the season, a 3.58 xFIP, a 4.24 ERA, 1.15 WHIP. Doesn't really get himself into trouble via walk. 7.1%. Could be a little bit lower, but that's a good walk rate. 2.84% home runs, 7.7% barrels. Has just been pitching really effectively. Took a nice step forward in terms of strikeouts this year and has maintained it. He talked about it coming into during the offseason. The things that the Twins staff basically told him about the changes they wanted him to make before they even had him on the mound once he signed. They just had meeting after meeting, and he was like, wow, this is really advanced takes. This is not what I used to get in Florida. And immediately made strides in his first couple of starts, sitting at a 14.6% swinging strike rate, 29.9% CSW. Just a really nice step forward for Pablo here. So I really like the opportunity for him to continue that 10-1, 10-8. I'm willing to pay that price, drawing a massive projection for me here, and I don't think it's incorrect. Definite opportunity to work deep into the game, chase the win, chase the quality start, find me a big handful of strikeouts here. You can hedge with a few shares of Royals off the top. The Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt, Nick Prado, Sal Perez part of the lineup maybe. You can work some MJ Melendez in there. We've talked about his odd lack of production despite that excellent contact profile. It's just weird. 11.4% barrels, 51.3% hard hits. Can't buy a home run or an extra base hit. 125 ISO, 6 home runs. Those numbers do not make sense together. One day he will find something at the plate, I think. Kyle Isbell, Mike Massey, Drew Waters, Nicky Lopez. That bottom of the lineup really supports the idea for more upside for Pablo here. So I'm enthusiastic about the Pablo spot. Alec Marsh on the other side. I can be talked into some shares of Alec Marsh. I would rather find $1,000 to spend on Alec Marsh than roster Tommy Malone for $4,000 on the DK slate. I'll say that right out of the gate. Alec Marsh is a fairly highly regarded prospect, one of their better organizational prospects. Came up, his second start of his career? Second start. He's 25 years old, had a terrible debut against the Dodgers. Kind of an unfair spot to debut. Kind of like what we saw with Brian Wu. They threw him out there against the Rangers. He got smacked, and then he's been excellent ever since. I don't know that Marsh is going to be that guy. He went 4 innings in that start, gave up 5 runs, 6 hits, 2 home runs, walk 4. He did strike out 5 against the Dodgers, who were difficult to strike out. I think there's a lot more upside for him here in this matchup against the Twins. I don't know what the depth necessarily looks like, but it's not like I think he was fully stretched out in the minors before the call up and everything. I didn't actually check that. I can pull it up real quick. What was he doing in the minors? I know I looked at it the last time he started, and I just forgot to circle back today. Yeah, he had the AAA, AA and AAA, so he made 14 starts. That's what threw me was the 3 starts. So it's 14 starts overall, 11 in AA. Was pitching to a 4.33 xFIP, a 5.32 ERA. Bumped him up to AAA, 15 innings, 3 starts, 4.32 ERA, 4.32 xFIP, 2.40 ERA. 28.8% strikeouts in the small AAA sample, 26.4 in the AA. Walked way too many though, 11.3% walks in that AA sample. So we're not going over the top for him, but I think at 5,000 on the DK slate against the Twins team with a 27.9% strikeout rate across this lineup, there's upside there. If he goes 5 innings, chases a win, it's, Pablo's probably not going to cough up the win for them here. But if he goes 5, finds some strikeouts, there's enough there. 58 on FanDuel. I don't know that he gets the quality start. I don't know that it's a night outside. If their team gets to Pablo, let's say, I don't know that it's a night where a quality start's going to be the differentiator. There's a little tiny fucking bug flying around here. I don't know that tonight's going to be the night where a quality start is even the differentiator on FanDuel when you're getting a pitcher like that at that price. But I think it is important to keep in mind on the front side because we don't know that Pablo's going to blow up. We don't know that none of these other pitchers aren't going to have a big night. So I don't know that it's the play that I would want to make, but I think it's viable at least over there. Like it a lot better on DK. I think you can definitely roster Twins against him, of course. There's the upside for a pitcher making his second career start. He obviously got tattooed by the Dodgers the other day. There are plenty of reasons to expect that the Twins will hit him pretty hard here. They've also got some stars like Byron Buxton, like Carlos Correa in the lineup. They've got Max Kepler and all his left-handed power in the lineup. Max has 12 sneaky home runs in 210 plate appearances this year. He's been pretty good. 11.1% barrel rate, 43.1% hard hits. When he's in the lineup, he can hit. 2,800 on both sites in the outfield. I like going to Max Kepler. Willie Castro's been a productive player this year, 2,500. 3 positions and 2,900 on the FanDuel slate makes him even more valuable. Third base, shortstop, and outfield. 5 home runs, 17 steals on the season. Dipped 3% below average now for run creation. Not what anybody would think of as a good player, but a guy who can be productive in doses like that for DFS purposes from the 7 spot when everybody else will be focused, on obviously 1, 3, maybe some 5 in that lineup. Like people will tend to forget Willie Castro in their twin stacks. So I think he's perfectly playable there, and the flexibility you get on him positionally is great. Joey Gallo, home runs or zeros. That's what we're getting from Joey. 190, 311, 481, but 18% better than average creating runs. 15 home runs in 222 plate appearances. A 21% barrel rate, 59% hard hits. Joey can always be in my lineups. Ryan Jeffers, power hitting catcher, who comes through, inconsistently. 3 home runs on the season and 150 plate appearances, but a nice robust contact profile, 48.8% hard hits. It's pretty playable there. Let's move on. So major enthusiasm about Pablo. Alec Marsh is minorly playable. If you're just rolling the dice and saying, hey, I got to play everybody at SP2 in a couple shares on DK today, he's easily on that board. And I like him better than an option like Tommy Malone at 4,000. So I definitely think there's viability for Alec Marsh on the DK slate. Let's move on to Cubbies and Brewers. Another good pitcher in this one. If Pablo doesn't win the day, I could definitely see a path for Justin Steele winning the day at 10-3 and 97. I actually really like him at this FanDuel price. That's pretty low. I expect he'll probably be gaining some popularity over there. Haven't looked at any ownership around the industry today, but I would expect he'll gain some popularity there, and I would expect he's going to be pretty popular at 10-3 on DK as well. Good matchup here against the Brewers. 23.5% strikeout rate for this lineup collectively on the season. That goes up higher against left-handed pitching. They're worse overall against lefties. They lose the quality from Christian Yelich for the most part against lefties. Over the course of the season, they're sitting, jump back to the article here real quick. 92 WRC plus. That took me too long to find. Nothing like leaving silence, just sitting there on the thing. I also had to find Joker's ears. He came over and started nudging for an ear scratch in here. That keeps him quiet though. We're coming up on dinner time for him. So 26th overall in baseball against lefties for the Brewers this year. 92 WRC plus collectively. That strikeout rate jumps to 26.5% for the active roster, a 145 ISO. William Contreras has been good against lefties. He climbs up in the projected lineup. We'll see what comes out in the confirmed version. Might be out. It doesn't look like it. Or it might be out and I need to reload the page. Either way, William Contreras, better against lefties. One of the productive hitters in this lineup against lefties. You get through him, you lose a little bit with Yelich. Adames is right-handed pop, but doesn't do a lot else at the plate. Kind of an easy out if he's not hitting a home run. Owen Miller, Blake Perkins, Monasterio, Joey Weimer, Victor Caratini, Bryce Terang. There's really not a lot of threat here for Justin Steele, who is a talented pitcher. 2.43 ERA. 0.88 home runs. What's that? 2 home runs probably on the season. I didn't actually check the number, but it can't be that many. 5.4% barrel rate, 30.7% hard hits, 22.3% strikeouts. Good enough on the strikeouts with the upside to find more in this matchup. I really like the spot here for Justin Steele. So I'm going to get a lot of Steele in my lineups. I don't really need to hedge it off with shares of these Brewers. It's just not that great a lineup. It's out Monasterio, Weimer, no Terang or Caratini. Okay. Let me reload, reload labs here real quick. So Yelich, okay, Contreras hitting second, Yelich still in the leadoff spot. Is the Cubbies out? Yeah, I can grab the Cubbies too. Come on. Cubbies, I think, is exactly what we had in there. You guys hear Joker panting? And it's just down in the corner over here. Why don't you go get a drink, pal? I know it's hot today. It's nice and cool in here. It's like 67 degrees in here. We got the AC cranking. So, all right, let's take a look at the confirmed version then. So Yelich in the leadoff spot, Contreras with all his quality against the lefty. Fine hitting second. Adames, Owen Miller, Jahmai Jones. Do not know much about Jahmai Jones. I gotta confess. 1 plate appearance. Should retire. 3 RBIs. Hitting 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 1,000 ISO. 718 WRC plus. Just retire as the greatest player of all time. Done. Done and done. 100% barrel rate. 100% hard hit rate. He's obviously the greatest player of all time. 2,400, 2,000. Jahmai Jones. Blake Perkins, Brian Anderson, Andrew Monasterio, Joey Weimer. All productive enough right-handed hitters. But all of these guys are loaded up into those aggregate numbers we were talking about. So this team just hasn't been good against lefties. You can go to shares of like Blake Perkins, former second round pick, never really landed at the major league level, post-hype type guy, switch hitter, moderate power, moderate speed. Brian Anderson, moderate power from the right side, 9 home runs, most of which came 100 and change plate appearances ago. Hasn't done much in any of June that I can remember. Monasterio, moderately productive. Weimer's been interesting. 11 home runs, 11 stolen bases. Low end in terms of the hit tool, but interesting counting stats production from him. 2,725. Cubbies, kind of interesting against Hauser. Just on the idea of contact and run creation. The thing I don't like is Hauser's fairly good, at least normally, at capping power, keeping the ball in the yard, cutting launch angle, cutting barrel rates. You can see he's done it fairly effectively in his 46 and third innings this year. Moderately effectively in terms of the barrel rate, the home runs last year, 2% the year before, 5% barrels. So typically works in this like 5% barrels, 2 or below percent home run range. Not a good pitcher by any means. Plenty of contact available. 14.8% strikeouts this year, 15% last year, 17 the year before. Has never been a good strikeout pitcher. Has never really been an overly effective pitcher. Puts guys on base, allows some batting average on balls in play, but not all that easy to hit a home run against. And the Cubbies haven't been hitting all that many home runs this year. So I don't really want to get carried away with Cubs bats. I think this is another one that maybe just falls into they'll produce the 4 and change runs that we expect them to, between 4 and 6 runs, and just doesn't really do anything for us for DFS purposes. There's hitters I like in this lineup, but they've all kind of underperformed. Seiya Suzuki, I thought was going to have more power than 6 home runs and a 145 ISO. Ian Happ, I know, has more power than 7 home runs and a 147 ISO. Dansby Swanson, same story, 10 home runs and 152 ISO. I know those two hitters are better than that. I know they have more power. They're both getting on base. They're both creating runs, Happ and Swanson, so Suzuki. Cody Bellinger had a great start to his season, kind of is cooled in his return here. 7 home runs on the year, 10 stolen bases, a 175 ISO. Still keeping strikeouts down, which is the key factor with Bellinger. 27.3 strikeouts. When he fell apart, he was striking out quite a bit. When he has that under control and he puts bat on ball, he can still deliver a little bit. It'll be really interesting to see how his next 300 plate appearances go if he stays healthy and what team he finishes the year on. Moderate interest in Cody, moderate interest in Chris Morel. 15 home runs and 178 plate appearances. Obviously, there's power there, but it's inconsistent. He rushed out to it was a dozen home runs in the first 90 or so plate appearances. Now he's only at 15 over 178. So he's not hitting a home run every single day, but he's quite good for home run upside. Jared Young, Tucker Barnhart, take him or leave him bottom of the lineup. Let's hit the 525. We're doing okay time-wise. Blue Jays and the Chi Sox. This is another one. Another one of these kind of both sides are type games. A lot of these today. Moderate, mid-range, tier 2, tier 3, right-handed pitching, facing each other. Can go to bats on both sides, can go to both pitchers. I think we're dealing with that again in this one. Take a sip of this. We'll load up the Blue Jays. And we'll get into this one. We'll see what's going on in the chat in a sec, too. Chuck says he likes Hauser as his value dart on FanDuel. There just isn't a value pitcher over there. Cubs fizzled fast this season. They were raking at the beginning of the season. Yeah, it's Gomes. Yeah, Gomes was had a bunch of power early in the season. I like young Gomes when he's in the lineup. Lone Wolf says he can hear the dog panting. Audio is so good. I'm glad it was better than it was earlier. Larry says Evan Longoria is batting second. Wow. He was in the projected lineup, and I was surprised to see him in the projected. I'm even more surprised to see him batting second. That's interesting. Is Corbin Carroll not in the lineup? Did we get him? What's the version of the lineup we got? Let me see. This stupid website. Oh, it's still not up on this one. All right. I'll be surprised when it lands. Lynn's getting to 17% on FanDuel. That's interesting. I think that's justified. Carroll's hitting third. All right. So, yeah, I think it's justifiable for Lance Lynn. When I wrote about it earlier in the day, and I think my position still stands, even though Lynn's projected 1.5 below where I've got Barrios here, I think I like Lynn a little bit better. 8,400 on both sides. I like the price tag for him better. And he's the better of the 2 strikeout pitchers overall. He's had his bumps, obviously. Had some bumps for power, 10.9% barrels, 5.09% home runs, but has massive upside. We've seen it. Yep, Mamba referenced it, 12 Ks, 16 Ks, whatever it was. Massive, massive upside for strikeout potential. Not a great matchup for strikeouts in terms of going up against George Springer, Bo Bichette, and Vladdy. All those guys with all their star power strike out in the mid-teens. Whit Merrifield also in the mid-teens. But they're certainly gettable guys. Kevin Biggio in the lineup, Danny Jansen, Matt Chapman at 27.9, Brandon Belt sitting at 37.9. For all his quality, Belt definitely has an aggressive strikeout rate right now at 37.9%. But if I'm going to the Lynn play, I'm going to take a share of Blue Jays probably every time I do it, because I think there's a lot of 16 Ks against Seattle. Thank you. I knew it was a big total. I couldn't remember which it was. You said 12 there, and I was like, wait a minute. Was it 12? Not that I would have conjured 16. Yeah, if I'm going to Lynn shares, I would definitely go to some Blue Jay shares on the other side of this one. I think there's obvious star power at the top. Springer, Bichette, Vladdy, and then working some shares of Brendan Belt, working some shares of Matt Chapman and all their power upside. Whit Merrifield, no Dalton Varsho in the lineup. That's a little bit of a downgrade for them. Takes a power bat out of the lineup, takes a lefty out of the lineup. Kevin Biggio, not a replacement for Varsho in terms of what they do at the plate. Biggio, 7 home runs on the year, a 194 ISO, but just an inconsistent hitter, and we've seen him flame out enough times now that I just have no faith. You can use him for DFS for sure at 2,600. I just don't think he's as good a player as Varsho. Danny Jansen, playable catcher with some power, 10 home runs on the season. Merrifield can steal you a bag, 3,800, 3,000, second base and outfield eligibility. Good hit tool, gets on base, steals you a base. Kind of, I want him ahead of those other hitters, but I don't know who I would change out of that version of the lineup. Unless you could tell me maybe Belt drops to 6th, and I go with Merrifield lead off for 2nd, and then the Springer, Bichette, Vladdy trio. But, playable, productive version of this lineup for sure. Take shares of them against Lynn, but I do like the upside for Lance Lynn in small shares. I won't get carried away with it. At that ownership, I'll probably be below the field. I think 17% on FanDuel is justified at that price, but I think I'll be below the field on it now that I know that the field is going to be around there. I like them, but I don't know if I like them that much at that kind of popularity. There's other similar spots. Jose Barrios, similar kind of a read. 22.7% strikeout rate, 3.74 on the ERA, has cut his home run problems out of his life to fairly effective degrees. Only 34.3% hard hits, 3.11% home run rate this year, 9,200, 9,600, fair price against the talented but bumbling White Sox, I think would be a fair way to put it. Obviously, you've got Luis Robert and all his power, Eloy Jimenez, all his power, Andrew Vaughn with a little bit of pop and some run creation ability in the heart of the lineup. But you've got two fairly struggling hitters at the top. Benny's kind of pulled himself together in terms of the batting average. The on base is okay, but needs to be more effective getting on base. He needs to be like 30 points higher than this for getting on base. He's cheap. He's easy to go to when you build White Sox stacks, but he's non-threatening at the top of the lineup. Tim Anderson's just been a zero for the most part at the top of the lineup. .044 ISO, a 52 WRC+, 235, 273, 279. It's just been ugly for Tim Anderson. So I think you can get away with Barrios shares because I'm really only worried about 3, 4, and 5. Oscar Colas, we talked about yesterday, a rookie with power upside, dead minimum price at $2,000, $2,200 in the outfield if you're building White Sox stacks. The version of the lineup that's got Remillard and Elvis Andrus in it at the bottom just kind of supports the idea of upside for Barrios here. So I like the spot for the pitchers here. I'll have some White Sox bats, but I think I would probably call it. How did I call it in the article? I called it Lynn Barrios, Blue Jays, White Sox. I think I would revise that to Lynn, Blue Jays, Barrios, White Sox in that order. I think I would slide the Blue Jays ahead of Jose Barrios there. Not that I am compelled to do that by this version of the lineup necessarily. It's kind of a weak bottom end there, but yeah, I think I'm going to stand by that. Lynn, Blue Jays, Barrios, then the White Sox. I like the White Sox, but I don't want to get carried away with them. I think it's probably just because it's burnt me so many times and because there's so many underperformers in there. But if I have a bunch of shares of these three guys and then some pieces of these guys, some Oscar Colas for the dead minimum on FanDuel, I'm okay with that in this spot. I've targeted Barrios enough times successfully in my life that if it doesn't work out today, it'll still be profitable over time. 4 games to go. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. rotoscouts.com is the website. At rotoscouts is the Twitter handle. At digitalb21 is my personal Twitter handle. I think the DMs on those are open. I have no idea. Not something I've ever checked. I think I've gotten DMs from some of you guys. Not trying to exclude me. I think everybody who's watching this show right now knows exactly where to find me anyway. I'm in that Discord all the time. I've actually got it now so that it, ever since I had that mishap with Gunn with not being able to hear him because I'm stupid and I had the tab muted, I never wanted to make that mistake again, so I've left my Discord tab unmuted. So now it just dings every time one of you guys says something in there, and it's really annoying. So I should probably turn that back off, especially now that the Discord's been so active lately. Anyway, South Lugo was getting a little bit of chat in the chat a little bit ago. Mamba says, I was talking about Barrios in this game, Terry. I like Barrios to strike out 12. Oh, all right. 12 is a lofty number. 22 and change strikeout rate for him. That's it's a bit high. I don't know that I'd put the house on 12. But yeah, I think he could definitely have a good game here against the White Sox. 20.8% strikeout rate for the lineup, but that includes like a 17 from Elvis, an 18 from Remillard, a 14 from Benny. a lot of the key hitters have 20-ish at least. You've got Colas in there, who's an aggressive free swinger. Grandal hasn't been as good at the plate. Both of these guys, obviously, tons of power threat, but definite free swingers. Chuck says 0 chance. Not 0, Chuck. Not 0. Baseball, there's very few things that are 0 chance. If you wanted to say 27 strikeouts, then there's probably 0 chance. 28 strikeouts, probably 0 chance. Chuck says not on the road. He's been a home guy all year for the most part of his career. He's Bill Miller behind the plate. All right, let's get back on the ball here. Angels and the Pods. Seth Lugo taking the mound against the Angels. 7,900, 8,600, 21.9% strikeouts. All in starts this year for Lugo. All 57 and 2/3, 11 outings, all starts. 3.70 xFIP, 3.59 ERA. Roughly effective. Hasn't been bad by any means. I don't think he's unplayable here. He's not like a strong option, I don't think. But I think he's no Mike Trout in the lineup. I feel like he is another one, like 26 on this side, 27 and change on that side. Both of these guys kind of in play, kind of not. Both of these lineups kind of in play, kind of not. I think it's just that kind of night where we're just going to be rostering a bunch of these mid-priced, mid-projected, kind of ugly, not overly appealing pitchers in not great spots and taking our lumps in the lineups that take lumps and hopefully getting through with the lineups that succeed to great levels at the top of the scoreboard. I think we just need to take chances with some of these guys, and Lugo's kind of on that board. He's been effective enough. He's limited walks, hasn't really given up a ton of power. I think the play is at least viable. 7,900, 8,600, the price is right, or right enough. On the other side, Patrick Sandoval, 17.9% strikeouts. I'm worried about the strikeout upside for him because he hasn't been finding them this year. 12.1% swinging is still good. 28.3% CSW is effective. He's just not finishing hitters off. I didn't really have time to dig into what might have changed to limit him polishing hitters off, but he was just more effective in terms of there were more swinging strikes. There were more called strikes or called plus swinging last year. Way more swinging the year before. This kind of drives the increase in this. Same with this and this. So getting more swinging strikes, but I'm not sure what the difference was in terms of what he's doing on the mound that's causing that dip. But that dip is important for him, going from 23% last year, 25.9 the year before, down to 17.9. That's a major difference for a lefty who needs those strikeouts to find his upside. He's okay at limiting power, has been below 2% home runs in each of the last couple of years. Or, excuse me, last year and this year, 3.03% the year before. Cuts launch angle, cuts barrels. So I think there's enough upside at price for Patrick Sandoval. If we're going to these other low-end pitchers, we might as well throw him into that bag at 6,900, 7,400. He projects well enough. If he finds a few additional strikeouts along the way, there's definite upside here. The Padres' projected lineup has a 23.1% strikeout rate. They've obviously got a few stars that you've got to work around. Definite threats in Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. I'll even throw Gary Sanchez onto that pile with all his power. Not that he's not a threat to strike out 4 times. Feed that upside for Patrick Sandoval. So it's another spot. I'll take some Padres lineups for sure. Some Ha-Seong Kim off the top. I talked about him yesterday, liking him in that leadoff role. He's up to 10 homers, 14 stolen bases, more productive than we've seen him in his first 2 years. So I like the spot for Kim there. I hope he stays there going forward. Tatis, Soto, Machado, and Bogaerts. 3 of those guys are a little bit underpriced for their talents, and Tatis is a star. You can go to those guys consistently. You can rotate them through a bunch of Padres stacks. You can play them together. That's a great group. Gary, 10.7% barrels, 45.3% hard hits, 7 home runs, but a 196 average, a 269 on base, and an 86 WRC plus, but a 215 ISO. We're taking the zeros. We're taking the home runs with Gary. If you're building a lineup with Joey Gallo and Gary Sanchez in it, I wish you luck. I wish you double dongs on both sides of that and not 8 strikeouts and 2 zeros. I might have that lineup today. I wouldn't be surprised to see that lineup in my lineups, maybe more than once. I like both of those hitters. I like that home run upside. I'll chase it. Jake Cronenworth, Brandon Dixon, Trent Grisham at the bottom of the Pods lineup. Take them, relieve them type guys. Angel side of things, no Mike Trout. Definitely hampers the lineup. At least you got Ohtani today. 66, 46. Totally viable on both sides. 31 home runs, 11 stolen bases. Best player in the world, best player of all time. Who knows? Who knows where the ceiling is? Who knows what the truth is? I don't know if he's better than Babe Ruth. Apparently, Babe Ruth never struck out more than 3 hitters in a season where he hit 30 home runs. I think I read that the other day. So, like, he never actually was like this. Like, Ohtani's the first guy to ever actually do this, which is just damn impressive. I don't know about best player of all time, but he's getting a lot of buzz. Let's put it that way. I think everybody knows who Shohei Ohtani is. Taylor Ward, Mickey Moniak up at the top. Ward's a roller coaster up and down, has power, gets on base, but hasn't been great at either this season, but had stretches last year where he was terrible and then would come roaring back to life. So I think if you're building Angel stacks, you definitely don't want to skip Ward, especially when Drury's not there, especially when Trout's not there. You need some of these bats. Mickey Moniak's been outrageous at the top of the lineup. 9 home runs, 305, 339, 644, a 165 WRC plus in 24 plate appearances, 124 plate appearances, 3,900, 3,000. Still cheap, too. Good lefty bat off the top going up against Seth Lugo, who's a non-intimidating pitcher on the mound. Could be a good day for Mickey Moniak shares. Hunter Renfroe, all his power. I believe in the Renfroe power. 75 home runs since the start of 2021. So that was 60 the last 2 years and the 15 that he's got this year so far. Massive power hitter. Probably doesn't get the love that he deserves DFS-wise. Maybe he's a little inconsistent, in terms of the average, in terms of putting bat on ball, but a monster power hitter. 4,400, 3,000. You get him at first base and outfield on the DK slate now. Same eligibility as Ohtani. That's pretty good bat there. Moustakas, I don't really believe in the resurgence here, but 264, 354, 421. It's nice to see from a player who used to be a pretty consistent lefty power bat. 2,800, 2,400, the price is right if you want to go to him, especially if he's hitting cleanup here. That's a decent spot for him. Matt Thaiss, Luis Rengifo, Eduardo Escobar, all 3 of those guys are playable in small doses from the bottom of the lineup. I like Rengifo and his sneaky power. I like Escobar, his switch hitting power. He's another guy who's hit a bunch of home runs over the last couple of years. So there's upside there. Not so much with David Fletcher. He's kind of a slap hitter at best, there for his defense, there to fill out the lineup type guy. So minor doses of both pitchers again for value shares. Some pods, some Angels. Not overly enthusiastic about any one corner, but I think all 4 corners are playable. Buddy, can you go lie down? Why do you have to stand behind me? Come over here on the side. Like, it's not that he's wants attention. It's not that he's doing this during the show. It's that he chooses to go behind my chair where I can't possibly reach him and then get uppity about the fact that I'm not petting. Hi, there you are. Good job. You figured it out. I can reach you here. Hey, this Doug. Right? Good boy. Good boy. He's a goofball. Great dog. Best dog ever. Right? Best dog ever. Best dog I ever had, anyway. Seattle Mariners, San Francisco Giants. Tommy Malone, the topic of much conversation in the chat. I don't know about the Discord, but at least in the YouTube chat. Tommy Malone, let me pull it up. It's in the article. Tommy Malone is coughing up a 4.82 run implied total to the Giants. I feel like that should be higher. I have a lot of skepticism about him. Let's see. 1 start this inning, 4 2/3 against the Rockies. Allowed a home run while striking out 3 and walking 2 back on April 14th. 6.19 xFIP and a 4.47 ERA with a 21.7% strikeout rate in 50 1/3 innings over 11 starts at AAA this year as a 36-year-old. I do not like Tommy Malone. I do not like this spot. Lefty going up against the Giants. I also don't like that about this spot. I think there's a couple really good platoon players here, really good righties against lefties. A couple guys who are going to be effective lefty bats against this lefty. I don't like the spot for Tommy Malone. Even at 4,000, I just don't think there's enough upside. I really, really don't. I know we've gone back and forth on some of these spots throughout the start of the season. I know there's value when you can get to somebody at 4,000 on DK and squeeze just a couple points out of them. Grab the right bats. The price is the only correct thing about that play. The name on the jersey, the arm that's going to be in the jersey, the stats that arm has provided in his career this year, in the minor leagues this year, do not justify the play. The price is the only thing that justifies the play. The best I can do trying to talk everybody out of it. It's just not a good spot. I will be going to Giants hitters here. I really like the idea of getting to some Austin Slater if he's leading off there. Wilmer Flores back in the lineup. Wilmer's been a play against lefties for as long as he's been in the league. 2,500, 2,700 for him. That's cheap for him against a righty, let alone against a lefty here. J.D. Davis from the right side of the plate has plenty of upside in this spot. Patrick Bailey's got upside for 3,500, 3,100 as a catcher. Michael Conforto and Yaz both have upside as lefty, even in the lefty-lefty against this lefty. Luis Matos, Casey Schmidt, Brandon Crawford, if they're in the lineup. I can play this Giants lineup for cheap prices, kind of up and down against a pitcher that I really want to target here. I see a lot of good cause to throw some Giants bats at this pitcher. I'm kind of surprised they're not projected a little bit higher than this in terms of what Vegas has for the run total, in terms of what I'm getting in the, well, this is averaged against that, and the Mariners project okay. Yeah, maybe what was their rating on the stacks board? Let me check that out real quick. Use my own tools. I don't talk about the stacks board enough on shows. Yeah, that was the weird thing. They don't rank out well. They rank out 19th by average projection. Partly because that bottom of the lineup really pulls down the projections. The red dots, the black dots here. So there's some really low relative projections for a couple of those guys that drag that down. I like this Giants spot better than how they project on this board. They've got a 3 in their third ranked for home run upside. So definitely showing plenty of power, and they're showing value on the board. But they're not showing enough fantasy points. I should have noted that when I put that up today. I like this San Francisco spot better than it might show on that stacks board. Mariners on the other side going up against Alex Cobb. It's an interesting spot. I don't know how many pitches we're getting from Cobb. I think there was a little bit of chatter about him in the Discord today. Has made, one start back from the IL for Cobb? Yes, 79 pitches in his first start. Or no, I think that should say 69. I don't think he went 79. He was on the IL for like 3 weeks. I don't know for sure how many pitches we're getting. He's a good pitcher. If we're getting 5 innings from him, I think you could find a nice strikeout upside here against the Mariners. So I think he's on the board, 8,600, 9,100. 21.9% strikeout rate, a 3.33 xFIP, a 3.12 ERA. If we're calling it, let me, I'm annoyed that I might have made a typo there. No, it was 79. All right, it was 56 of 79 pitches for strikes was the blurb that I read. All right, so it was 79 pitches. So, yeah, I think we can reasonably expect 5 innings and potentially beyond that. So with an expectation of 5, I think there's plenty of upside here for Cobb. And then if we're getting beyond that into the 6 range, I think he just becomes more and more viable. If he gets through 6 clean innings, I would expect that he's got a healthy strikeout total here. The Mariners, this projected lineup, 25.5% strikeout rate, definitely justifies that for a pitcher like Cobb. And he's good. He limits power effectively. 1.67% home runs on a 1.1 degree angle this year, 1.43 on a 1.8 last year, 1.27 on a 3.0 the year before. Low single digit barrel rates. He's a very good major league pitcher, very good veteran righty. Doesn't really walk anybody, doesn't really get himself in trouble. So as long as we're getting depth, as long as we're getting 5 or 6, I think he's perfectly playable here. I'll take some shares of the Mariners bats, but if we're taking that home run upside away from them, with all their strikeouts, with their inability to sequence, with their not great on-base percentages, not even really good on-base percentages, it's just not a team that really turns the lineup over and creates runs if they don't hit home runs. And he's, again, pretty good at limiting home runs on the norm. So I think I'm leaning more toward Cobb, a little bit away from the Mariners. But you can go there. You can grab some Crawford off the top, his good on-base percentage in front of Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, Cal Raleigh, Eugenio Suarez, Jared Kelenic. He's kind of fallen off, really struggled, only 11 home runs at this point. I say only because he had 11 home runs, I think, at the end of May, if not mid-May. Just kind of died on the vine after a great start. Looked like he was finally fulfilling his promise and really hasn't done much since. Mike Ford still at the dead minimum on DK. Quad A type player, but has 7 home runs in 74 plate appearances and puts bat on ball from time to time. So if you're going over the top with Mariners, you certainly can include the lefty down the bottom of the lineup there, but not great. in terms of Mike Ford. Caballero's getting on base a little bit. Maybe an effective wraparound play, 13 stolen bases for Caballero at the bottom of the lineup. And then I skipped over Ty France. An effective hit tool, hit more for power last year, but 3,200, 2,900. Good way to differentiate a little bit of lineups, offset some price. So the key hitters are these guys, like those guys. And then the other guys are kind of bolt-ons. Crawford I like from the top of the lineup, given that he gets on base ahead of these guys. So he'd probably be in my first lineup. It would probably be kind of straight line it, or maybe skip Raleigh for Suarez or Kelnick. So it'd probably be like those four in my first lineup. But I like the Cobb spot. I really do. Something was pinging in the Discord. Oh, now, all right, I can't sit here and read all of this now. Trey's linking Google the Stone bag. This compartment's where you can fit your glass pieces. All right, I got to check that out. Let's keep on moving here. Chuck says, I thought Kelnick was legit, and he just disappeared. Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be legit when he came over from New York 2 years ago. Struggled but hit for power when he came up. Went back down, struggled to hit for power again last year. Came back this year, roared out of the gate, looked like it was finally here for real. And just, has kind of died on the vine again. Dennis says, I think you want it to say 69. Something had in the article today was like a 69 in 69 or something like that. And I was going to make an EMAC joke, but I forgot to circle back for it. Oh, Larry dropped the Los Angeles lineup in. Moniak, Escobar, Shohei, Adele, Moustakas, Renfroe, Thace, Rengifo, Velasquez. All right, so I really like Moniak off the top. I like Escobar hitting second there. That's definitely interesting for that hitter. Switch hitter, decent power. Hasn't been great this year, but that's a professional hitter hitting second now. Shohei, obvious. Joe Adele, major power upside. Has never really fully put it together at the major league level, but has light tower power. Was crushing the minor leagues earlier this year too. Blasting home runs. So I like that a little bit. I still don't love Moose in there, but he's playable. Renfroe, Thace, Rengifo, we talked about those guys. Velasquez, you can leave off at the bottom of the lineup. Kind of just like Fletcher. So this one was enthusiasm for Alex Cobb to a degree, just given that not entirely sure what the innings look like, but I think we're safe. I think we're good there. Enthusiasm for the Giants bats. Minor shares of the Mariners. Don't want Tommy Malone. Hopefully did a good job talking everybody out of him. Mets and the Diamondbacks. This is a tough spot in terms of the Kodai Senga play. 10,000, 9,700. I think the price is right. I like the upside for strikeouts for this pitcher. What I don't like is the matchup. The Diamondbacks have been really good this year. They've been really good at creating runs. They've been really good at limiting strikeouts. All of their key hitters in the top of the lineup. Let me see if I got the confirmed. All of their key hitters in the top of the lineup, with the exception of Evan Longoria, who is apparently hitting second today, have very, very low strikeout rates for their quality. Get back to this. Is the Mets out too? Mets is not out. So Longo screws that up because he's striking out at a 30.4% clip this year. He does have 11 home runs on 148 plate appearances. I would guess that most of them are against lefties. They were platooning him exclusively early in the season, and only 148 plate appearances, but that is a healthy home run total in that sample, a 303 ISO. Obviously a guy who's gotten it done over the long term, professional hitter. I just don't know what's left in the tank against the high strikeout righty for him, but I guess we'll find out. But everybody, to go back to what I was saying, Geraldo Perdomo, low strikeout rate. Carroll, Walker, Gurriel, all good low strikeout rates. Even Jake McCarthy, moving up in the lineup, 19.1%. You don't have Ketel Marte in the lineup. That kind of sucks. Somebody else is missing, I feel like. Either way, not the ideal version of the lineup, but McCarthy's interesting moving up given all his speed and the fact that he's kind of putting bat on ball a lot better than he was when he was completely inept at the beginning of the season. If he gets on base, he's running. I kind of wish they had moved him up to the second spot and then let Longo hit 6. Get McCarthy and his speed up in front of those run creators, up in front of the big bats. I kind of like that. I really like Perdomo up there, given the fact that he's getting on base at a 385 clip over his 257 plate appearances. But I think he could have gone Longo down in the lineup, look for power from him, get some speed. Not that I'm exclusively looking for speed from somebody in the top of the lineup, but he gets on base okay. He's got a decent hit tool. He can kind of drive the run creation, or either that or just leave him down the bottom. But I don't mind Alek Thomas from the bottom. He's got a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed as well. Very, very cheap. Carson Kelly, if you're playing on DK, you can take shares of him as a catcher. But Senga, I'm definitely going to have shares of on the other side. He projects very well. I'm just worried about his advanced walk rate at 13% and what this Diamondbacks team might be able to do with that. They don't aggressively draw walks, but they don't strike out. So if he's struggling not being able to put guys away, I feel like that enhances his walk rate a little bit because he's such a high walks guy, such a high volatility guy, where they'll find more walks against him than they might against the average pitcher. So it's a dicey spot in my mind. I'm hoping that he doesn't get crazy popular. I can't imagine he would be at what is the correct price in a difficult matchup. So I'll have some Senga. It'll be one where I kind of let the field's ownership, I think, dictate where he comes down, and then what the combinations look like just in my sorting process. A lot of the times just, the bats will carry cheaper pitchers up to the top than where he falls today. So he might go by the wayside a little bit, but I'm going to make sure to grab some. Even if he falls out of the sort, I'm going to make sure to click back and grab some shares, because I am interested in one of the highest strikeout rates of the day for the season. I think he's totally justifiable here. It's just a tough spot to get them. Overall, pretty good. 3.53 ERA, 4.01 xFIP. It hasn't been overly problematic for him with the walks. It's just part of his game. But if you watch him pitch, it can get really, really ugly when he's throwing that splitter. It's just working in the dirt. The last time out, poor Francisco Alvarez had to drop and block like 15 balls in the first 4 or 5 innings. He can be a big-time strikeout asset, but if guys are just sitting on that, it can get ugly fast. So I worry about Senga, but I'll definitely have some. Tommy Henry, I am not going to get to. I know he's had a couple decent outings. I know it's a short slate. I just don't think the $7,000 or $8,200 price is correct. You can see where he's projected. This is probably an unfair projection. There's a lot of noise in the model from how bad he's been in some spots. It doesn't necessarily account for the improvements he's made in recent starts. And there's still a lot of noise in the statistical line here. A 5.21 xFIP, only 17% strikeouts, a 4.15 home run rate. But the 4.15 home run rate is maybe still oddly incidental, given a 30.5% hard hit rate, just 86.7 miles an hour of exit velo. It's weird to give up that many home runs with that good of a premium contact number. A little bit inflated on the barrels and the launch angle's high. So it's a fly ball oriented pitcher. So that just means a few mistakes, and it's just like a few too many mistakes, but still a guy who, when he's not making those mistakes, seems to harness it really well. None of this leads me to wanting Tommy Henry on the mound. Like I said, I just don't think the prices are right. I'll trust the model on the projection. Getting massive home run number on Pete Alonso leads the entire slate at 19.5. 25 home runs on the year. Obviously really cool. He had 20 home runs, by the end of... was it 20 home runs by the end of May? 20 home runs. He had 20 home runs really early. Got hurt, cooled off, 25 on the season now, 294 ISO. Massive power hitter, though. We know Pete Alonso is very, very good at this. Francisco Lindor, if you only look at the power numbers, is perfectly fine. 17 home runs, 224 ISO. Perfectly fine. It's the 224, 310, 448 triple slash that's the problem. But 11 stolen bases, still a 12.3% barrel rate. 4,900, probably cheap for him on DK. Actually, definitely cheap for him on DK. 35, probably about right for this version of him on FanDuel. Tommy Pham, if he's hitting second, is interesting. Brandon Nimmo's always interesting in the leadoff spot for the Mets. Bottom of the lineup, Starlin Marte, Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, Marcana, Brett Batty. Any one of those guys or two of those guys in combination with the core of the lineup, the heart of the lineup here, and Nimmo, I think any two of those guys is perfectly fine. I would prefer probably Marte. Oddly, Marte and Beatty or Marte and Alvarez. You're taking shots for the home run upside with Alvarez. It's not been great in terms of the hit tool lately, the on-base skills, a lot of strikeouts there. So you're rolling the dice for home run upside, which we're perfectly fine to do with these prices. I don't like McNeil in terms of being a slap hitter who's just been getting unlucky all season. Khan is a playable veteran part, but I think if I'm picking just favorites, I think Marte and Brett Beatty. So you could go like these three with Nimmo and Beatty as a wraparound if this was the version of the lineup. Playable. Not great, but playable. I really like the power upside here, though, for the Mets. So I will have some Mets stacks. Probably won't get overly carried away with it. The spot looks good. I think the spot maybe looks a little bit better than it might be in reality in this situation. So it's another one. I'll see how it comes up. I'll see where the public's at when I make the final decisions. But definitely upside for power with some of these guys for sure. Tommy Pham could be sneaky for power here. He's put bat on ball really, really well this year. We've talked about him a few times, but 9 homers on the season, a 229 ISO, 14.7% barrels, 49.7% hard hits. If we look back over time, I don't know that we capture any of his really good seasons. 17 homers in 622 last year, 15 homers in 561 the year before, 14 stolen bases. What was the ceiling for Pham? He went 2020 a couple times, I think, right? Yeah, 23-25 in 2017, 21-15 in 2018, 21-25 in 2019. Productive guy. Seems to be roughly back at those levels of production. So I like getting to some Pham shares, especially if he's hitting second. That makes him more interesting than if he's hitting 6th or 7th. And he's kind of earned the spot. He's been having a really good year. It's not necessarily predictive that he's had a really good year to this point, but it's a guy with that kind of a track record who had suffered a few weird injuries over time and not really necessarily lost his talent, kind of regaining it. I'm interested in that. So top end of the Mets, and then like some Beatty from the bottom. We talked about the Diamondbacks briefly, but again, if I'm going there, I like the top 5 here, top 6 for sure. The Longo play there is odd, but I think he's got definite home run upside. Perdomo, Carroll. Obviously, Carroll's a star. Christian Walker's a star with all his power. I love Walker because he's got all that power, but he doesn't really strike out. He's not a sellout for power type guy. 17% strikeouts this year, only 19.6 when he hit 30 whatever home runs last year. 17 homers on the season this year. Like the spot there for Mr. Walker. Last game on deck, which is a good thing because it's 6 o'clock. I feel like I maybe went a little long on those last two games. I thought we were making better time than that before. Terry, over the All-Star break, could you possibly do a video on your sorting process? I was thinking about that, Larry. I was also thinking about putting the dog in the kennel and booking a flight somewhere, putting my feet in the sand for a little bit, but we'll see. See what happens. I'm sure that's probably not going to happen because I'm just lazy. So you'd have a better shot of getting your video than me going on vacation. Let's put it that way. I've also done those before. I'm not sure if they're still up on Stochastic, but I've definitely done those for Stochastic and not much has changed. But it would be easy to go back and recreate. And it's something I've thought about doing. I've also thought about the viability of like creating a file that's like an Excel file that's kind of like the core of how I do it. That people could then, like, if you play on DK, use this tab. If you play on FanDuel, use this tab. Drop your salaries here. Drop your projections here. You would have to be able to execute those steps. But I think there would be the possibility of creating a usable sorting tool in Excel. I know they're out there. Like, it's nothing crazy. It's also very easy to make. But if that's something that people want, it's within the realm of possibility that I could execute something like that. Let's put it that way. Also got all sorts of interesting people talking about pythons and cobras and all sorts of snakes in the Discord. Programming languages. Pirates, Osvaldo Bido. Big no thank you here for Osvaldo Bido. I just don't see it against the Dodgers. Like, why do we want to do that to ourselves? 7,400, 7,200 on a weird night, weird pitching night. Sure, you can get away with it. It's a dart. You can throw it. I don't think I want to. I think there's a little bit in, like, if he was going up against a worse team, I think you can definitely get to him. 1 in 5 strikeouts, has been okay at the major league level so far in 4 starts, has limited power pretty well. So maybe he takes the power down a little notch for the Dodgers here, but it's still bleeding through with Mookie, with Max Muncy. All these guys have pretty high home run numbers. It's the Dodgers. Why do we want to mess with it? We're already dealing with so much bad pitching today. Why do we want to throw another log on the fire? I'm saying no to Osvaldo Bido. I'm saying yes to Bobby Miller on the other side, though. 8,300, 9,900. Projects out okay. 26.8, making his 8th start, 21.7% strikeout rate, a 4.05 xFIP, a 4.23 ERA. Good enough against this Pirates lineup. And a kid that I think has more than that. Highly regarded prospect. What did I note about Miller? I thought I had a good minor league note on him. 30.5% strikeouts in 91 AA innings last year. I knew I had a minor league note on him in there somewhere. So a good prospect, kid that they expect to kind of stick at the major league level since he's here now, and pitch for them for a while at the major league level. So this is a kid they like. I expect the strikeouts to go up over time. Could be a good spot to find them against the Pirates here. Not a great Pirates lineup. Certainly plenty of strikeouts through the back end, and a very weak back end if it's this version with Nick Gonzalez, Jared Triolo, Marcano, Jason DeLay. Not a lot of threatening hitters there. Not a lot of great run creators there. Sawinski obviously has a ton of power. He's been hitting for power this year. 18 home runs on the season. 18.1% barrels. Got to get around Sawinski. Got to get around Carlos Santana, Henry Davis, McCutch, Brian Reynolds. There's some good hitters at the top of the lineup. They perform in waves. Henry Davis is a rookie coming up. We've touched on him a number of times. He needs his catcher eligibility to be super valuable on DK, but a highly regarded rookie. Kid I think is going to be good, but I can't say that he's good yet. McCutcheon and Reynolds have been up and down like crazy this year. Santana's been even more up and down than that. It was mostly down and then a very brief spike up and then probably on his way back down. So it's not a great Pittsburgh lineup. I think you can go there in small shares at the top because you're going up against a rookie pitcher who hasn't been a dominant strikeout presence yet. He's been good at limiting power. I think there's more strikeouts, like I said. I prefer the Miller side, but I think I can grab a couple hedge stacks of Pirates. Not a lot because they've just been bad, but a couple. So this one is enthusiasm about the Dodgers stack from certainly Mookie through Martinez. That's very easy. That's very obvious. Peralta, if he's in the lineup. Hayward, Outman, big lefty bats down there. Peralta's up to 286 with a 100 ISO or 100 WRC plus on the season. Hayward's still sitting on a 129 WRC plus, 8 homers. Outman's got 11 homers. There's a lot of lefty power down the bottom of the lineup here for the Dodgers. Don't love Miguel Rojas at the bottom. He hasn't been good this year, but 1 through 8 for the Dodgers today against Osvaldo Bido seems pretty easy. Seems like a good spot to go to. Their total at 5.58. So it's them and the Braves yet again, shockingly totaled in the high fives or mid to high fives. And then it's the two teams in that the Red Sox and Rangers. 5.08 for the Rangers, 5.02 for the Red Sox in a tight game. So those are your teams over 5. I think that's where we're getting a lot of our offense. But I talked about it when we were talking about liking the pitchers in that Red Sox and Rangers game. I think that one maybe has a shot to be held down to like just those totals, where you can see a lot more explosive upside for the Braves, a lot more explosive upside for the Dodgers. And then maybe some of these other teams get carried away. So I don't know how much I'm going to really chase the run totals, the Vegas run totals in that Rangers-Red Sox game. Like I kind of want to go to the Reds a little bit more than that. I kind of want to go to maybe some value Yankees a little bit more than that. Maybe some Orioles a little bit more than that in that first game. Who else? Not the Cubs. Yeah, that's kind of the focus there, I think. Maybe some Pods at that 496 total, although I didn't love that spot. I just like the star power in that Padres lineup. Anyway, it's 6:08. Let me scroll over real quick, talk about the pitching matchup, and then see if I can actually build some lineups for this slate. Considering I took all that time off the top of the show to put my placeholders in. All right, let's do this real quick. Every now and then I feel like those scenes in the first Spider-Verse movie where they throw the comic book on the pile when they're introducing a new character. And let's do this one more time. It's kind of how DFS feels doing this every day. So let's do this one more time. Pablo Lopez off the top. Massive favorite for me. 10.8, 10.1. Totally willing to pay it on both sites. Projects out easily better. Easily the highest on the board. And then we get a big mix of everybody. Seven-ish points separating like 10 pitchers here. Kodai Senga, I like the pitcher. I like the strikeout rate. I'm really nervous about the matchup against Arizona, given what they do well versus what he does poorly. I don't love that combination of factors. I could see him having a bit of a clunker here. I'll have some. I'm going to really be driven by what the slate does with him, what the public's projected to do with him. Justin Steele, I'll take even if he's chalky. I like that spot quite a bit, given the strikeout propensity for Milwaukee, that lousy Milwaukee lineup against lefties. Josiah Gray, I have no idea. I believe that projection is correct. I also believe that it's correct that Cincinnati is one of the leading teams in my home run model and one of the leading teams in fantasy point projections. Firm both-sided one for me. I prefer the Cincinnati side, but I've seen Josiah Gray get there a couple times, and I've been burnt by chasing him a couple times. So I'll have both sides of it. Really curious to watch that one. Like I said, though, favor the Cincinnati side. We'll probably be over the top with some Cincinnati lineups today. Joey Votto was the home run pick. Barrios and Lynn sitting right next to each other in that game that I was referring to before, where it's just another one of those ones where it's both sides, but also kind of both sides on the bats or nothing. If I had nothing from that game, I'd be like, well, I'll probably miss out somewhere, but I don't know which side I'm regretting not having. It's just that kind of an ugly game. I think it's more play all four sides than it is get away from it, but it's a tight one. Graham Ashcraft, don't really believe in that projection. I mean, the projection's okay. I just wouldn't go crazy for him. 6,100, like, I don't think that's the value guy du jour here. It could happen, but it's thin. I don't really buy it. Low strikeout rate. Miller I like quite a bit going up against Pittsburgh. I think Sandoval's viable against San Diego there. Same thing with Lugo on the other side of that game. Sorry to just continue saying like all these guys are kind of viable, but like look at these projections. It's kind of just what we're getting. It's just a weird fat but not tall kind of a slate. So Soroka, I don't really trust right now. I don't know that I would chase this one against the low strikeout Guardians. John Gray, I think, is playable. Both sides of that Texas-Boston one, like we talked about, I think are playable. Kramer and Vasquez, moderately playable, but I think we're getting to the point where like we just don't need them because we've had so much else. So I don't know that you want to go out of your way for them. And I kind of believe in the hitting, especially in these conditions, 90-ish degrees in the Bronx right now. So I don't think you need to go over the top for those guys. Alex Cobb would be an interesting one from the bottom down here, from 9,186. It's not like a value price, but I think he's kind of interesting against that high strikeout Mariners lineup. These guys down here I don't really need. Although, now I did make the argument for Marsh. I'll throw him back in there. These guys I don't need. Marsh, I think, does have a little bit of upside at that 5,000 price. I'd rather go to him than any of these guys for value on DK, and probably over Graham Ashcraft, even though Ashcraft projects better. There's just a little bit more strikeout upside for a more highly regarded kid in that spot. Less experience, but Ashcraft experience, I don't know that it's helped him. He might want to forget it. All right, gang, it's 6:12. I got to get out of here. I got to say my goodbyes. Let's see what's going on. Larry says my head was spinning with them talking about Python in Discord. Yeah, I haven't ever actually gotten into cutting the code for Python. I know I can do it just based on like experience that I've had in other things in my life. I know if I do it, it'll be a 12-hour binge where I've just got my head in my computer overnight and I stay up all night and I knock something out and then I've got to tinker with it for all time. And it's just going to be another thing on the fire. So I've been avoiding it. But yeah, it's a lot of power in what those guys are doing. I gotta talk to those guys, see if we can get something out there. Stephen B., you're welcome, buddy. Go win something tonight. Andrew Jennison, you win something too. Larry, you too. Everybody go win something tonight. Everybody enter separate tournaments. Everybody wins tonight. Go get them, gang. Good luck out there. I'm going to hit the punch out button. I'll see you later.